12-22 on this Thursday as we head into the weekend and inching closer to spring football, the second version of spring football under Jimbo Fisher. And, Luch, I don't think – obviously the storylines in year two won't be as big. The headlines won't be as big heading into spring ball, but I do think there are some very intriguing things that we're going to take a look at, over the course of those 3 or 4 weeks leading up into the spring game. And, the first one I think is going to be that I have written down is who's going to be the backup quarterback? And how is – we can't answer that now, but what do those 3 guys need to show over the – and how much can they show? And does Connor Blumrick have a leg up because he's been in, mop-up duty a couple of times?
No, you know me. I hate mop-up duty as an advantage for anybody. Now, if you're mop-up duty, there's a difference. If you came into 2 games – if you came in for 2 series of the Auburn game because, like Jokel did a few years ago when Johnny got hurt, and then you came in, or if you got a spot start and finished a game like Hubenek did his junior season before when he finished Mississippi State and started and played all of Ole Miss. Like, to me, that's a big advantage. But the kind of snaps that Connor's gotten, that's not an advantage for him in that battle at all. I mean, those were meaningless snaps. Those were just kind of, hey, cool, congratulations on getting your first snaps at Kyle Field type thing. I think he has a leg up, just that he's an older, more experienced guy. But as far as in the system, he and James Foster are even in that regard. Zach Calzada, I think it was very important for him to get here in a midterm to be able to compete there. But I think that's going to be a hell of a competition because Blumrick's got the experience, in terms of being a college quarterback for 2 full seasons there. He's been hurt a lot too, though, particularly his freshman year. But there are people that tell me in the program, I see the message boards like, hey, should we give up on James Foster? We haven't heard much about him. No, you shouldn't, and no one in Bright has either. They think he has a chance to have a bright future, no pun intended, but at Texas A&M, they're saying don't sleep on Foster. Like, I was told that recently. He said, don't sleep on Foster now. That dude's ridiculously talented. And the same thing we've talked about Calzada and his upside.
The thing about Zach is he's different.
There's a great answer today, probably the worst answer on the whole Twitter today when they asked, Texas Radio asked, could Kellen be the second best quarterback by season's end in the SEC? And you had some smart ass go, I think he'll be the second best on A&M's team. Again, the continued assault on anything positive mentioned by Kellen Mond. I'm going to start keeping a list, but like I had to do with Von Miller back when I said I thought he could be I think I said he was better than, I don't know if it was a Rakpo or whoever it was. And I said he should be a first-team All-Big 12 pick heading into his junior season, and everybody just lost their collective minds. And same deal with Tannehill. The list goes on, and I'm doing the same thing with Kellen Mond.
Offensive line, I think, is another big question.
Yep.
Is it dead set in your mind that Dan Moore and Carson Green stay at those tackles and then they fill in between?
I don't think anything's dead set. I think that's likely.
I think it's likely just because the amount of SEC games those two have played, that experience with Kellen coming back, I think having those 2 guys on the bookends goes a long way in continuity. But, man, the pass rushers those guys saw.
Yeah, they got a lot better.
Yep.
They got a lot better as the year went on.
They got calloused, and they understand every week.
You stop noticing them, which is always a good thing.
Now, is Kenyon Green more talented than both of them? Yes. Absolutely, yes.
Athletically, yeah. I mean, I think Dan Moore could be a high, and I think both those guys are NFL tackles. The question is, you do have a pretty big question mark inside where you lost 2 of 3. Now, you've got some options, but
McCollum's been a pretty good player here.
Would it? Yeah, well, I would say this. He's been I would say Ryan was kind of, I'm here when you need me, and I think he struggled a lot. But then this season, I think he turned a corner. This season, and Ryan, again, he's like Colton Prater in that he shouldn't have been playing as a true freshman. No way. Mm-hmm. But I think this season, when he came in, when Hawker got hurt, he really came into his own as a player, and I was starting to be really impressed with how he played. So I think, I would agree with you. I would say he's become a pretty good player with a chance to be even better because the guy's got 2 more years left.
I like that he can play center.
He can play guard or center. I like him. I think he's a real asset, and I think that if you made me pick a starting 5 today, I think he'd be in that group for me.
Yeah, I think you could pick 4 of the 5 pretty quickly. What's the 5th one look like?
Well,
where is it at? Is it at center? Is it at guard?
That's the question,
yeah.
and then that leads you back to your first question of do you move Dan Moore to like a guard to shore up that inside? My personal opinion, I wouldn't mind at all seeing them go get a grad transfer on the O-line, on the interior, and then you go, okay, if you got a plug-and-play starter there.
I'd love a grad transfer center.
If you had a plug-and-play starter there, and then you could go keep your tackles, veteran at guard, and then at the other guard spot and center, those 2 spots you go Hawker, McCollum, Grayson Reed, Luke Matthews,
Barton
Clement, Tank Davis,
Tank Jenkins,
yeah. I mean, if you go through that list,
well, it'll be interesting too, Luch. We heard
maybe
all
Tank
last
Davis.
year,
Maybe we're gonna bring Tank Davis back.
We heard all last year that Jim Turner had been working Luke Matthews out at tackle.
Yep.
Josh Henson's going to come in here, and he may say, "There's my starting center right there." I don't know why we're complicating.
Prater's another name. I mean, my point is, if you went and got that guy at that spot, you have 2 other spots to fill. And I'm talking about there's the guy at Florida State that's looking at transferring that Jimbo and them are very familiar with because they recruited him. Was one of their better linemen, maybe if not their best at the time they left. And then if you had 2 spots to fill between all those names we said and Kenyon Green, man, I think that's when you could start to look at it. And then if Kenyon's a way better tackle than he is a guard, and if he's close to Dan Moore at tackle and you can move Dan Moore in. But I just think I'm with you on Moore and Green. I think they played so much football, and they were so tested by fire in there.
And in week 2, you're going to Clemson.
By week 2, yeah. But and again, you got to look at that and say, I like them at tackle. And sort out the rest, and Kenyon, I think, absolutely will eventually move out to tackle. And
it'll be a first round.
If you got like a grad transfer there and you had 2 guys, maybe he is your backup tackle. And then by midseason you say, okay, let's figure this out because this guy's coming on. He's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I would give Kenyon a much better chance to make an impact had he come in early. But with only 3 or 4 months or less than that before you go on the road to Clemson, it's going to be tough to crack that starting lineup. Last thing on the offensive side, the running back situation I think is really interesting, Luch. And
I don't think it's that tough for him to crack that starting lineup if they're playing him inside. But I think the thought process is he's going to come in here as a tackle.
Right, and has he ever done that? I don't know that he's ever played inside and how much – I don't know offensive line technique enough to know how big of a jump is that for a guy that's never been in there.
Yep.
You'd have to ask Steve or Seth or somebody like that how much of a difference it is. But real quick, before we go to break, is running back simple that it's Ja'Shawn Vernon?
No.
Well, in the spring, I mean.
No. Cordarian.
Well, yeah. Is he a fullback?
No, he's like in between. I interviewed Jimbo yesterday and asked him about that specifically about he's a tailback. Mm-hmm. Now, if there is a situation where they have to put somebody at fullback, but right now, it's Ben Miles is a fullback. Mm-hmm. Who's the tight end? I always forget his name.
Rennick.
From here. Rennick's.
Yeah. Iola.
Those are the 2 he mentioned.
You couldn't make it in Iola, Texas.
Yeah, I could. My old high school coach
a little too muddy
was
for
the
you out
head
there.
coach. Was the head coach over there at Leon. So I'd go out there. Me and my buddies from Sam Houston from high school, we'd ride out there and go do some campfires and
Mudding.
cookouts and go mudding a little bit. Yeah, don't question me.
All right.
But, yeah, no, I think those were the two he mentioned at fullback.
Mm-hmm.
And Cordarian, I'm telling you, they love the idea of he and Vernon Jackson giving them a big tailback situation. But I think it's in the spring. Yeah, I think those are the main guys. But I'll tell you what Jimbo said that was really kind of eye-opening. He mentioned Deneric Prince specifically, who I don't know why, but some people have been asking if he's even on the team still. He mentioned him specifically and said, I forget what the word he used, but it was something along the lines of he looked spectacular during their fourth quarter stuff and off-season stuff so far.
That's good to hear.
So he's really got them fired up.
On the other side of the break, we'll flip it to the other side of the ball. You listen to Beliucci Hour Lunch live on The Zone.